to have a quorum with 4 members present. If y'all will please stand for the invocation. Do you mind saying the invocation this evening? Thank you.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, our God, we come tonight to give thanks to your holy name. Father, we thank you for every blessing that you've given us. We pray tonight for our school board, and we pray for all those who are employees. We pray for all those who are present tonight. Oh God, I pray that you give us the wisdom and the knowledge to conduct the business that it may be pleasing in your sight. Dear Lord, we thank you for everything that you do for us. We ask it in the most powerful name we know. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, now for the pledges. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the Texas.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Union of Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Thank you all for being here. We are going to take things a little out of order, so we're going to kind of bounce for a second. We're going to go down into reports before we do good news or anything else to allow the BCISD Strategic Planning Committee Recommendation Committee to come forward and share with us. So I'll pass it to you, Mr. Kelly.
Okay, so I just want to let everybody know that we got quite a few people that were on the committee that took all of their time to spend learning about the district's finances and about school finance in general. They invested a lot of time starting in was it March or April, over a series of 4 meetings, and did a tremendous job. They worked through all the information, had really great questions that helped me personally learn how to better express and explain what the district is experiencing. So I really appreciate the feedback that you guys gave in that process and your time. And so the committee did come to a recommendation, and it was a unanimous decision on the committee's part on what to recommend to the board. Part of their charter was the Bay City ISD Strategic Planning Committee will collaborate to review the current state of the district, specifically focused on financial status and predicted outcomes for future years. The committee will provide guidance and input to the Bay City administration and board of trustees regarding future necessary elections. The committee understands that all future decisions rest with the board of trustees, but that their input is greatly needed and appreciated. So we have 2 representatives of the committee here tonight to present that recommendation and to give an overview of what their key takeaways were from the process. And the first one is Miss Donnie Stone, the fabulous Donnie Stone. And then we've got Noe Kano, and they're going to take turns presenting this to us. And so, Ms. Stone, I will hand it over to you.
Good evening to all. I am so delighted to be chosen, and I consider as being handpicked to be a part of this thankful few. We were a group of people that was on the same team with different walks of life, with different ideas, direction, and even different opinions. But as going through our training, we intertwined together for the same purpose, and that's for the betterment of our district. Now, Mr. Townsend has already read our purpose, so I'm not going to read that again. So I would like, this is our team, most of them. I would like for anyone that's here from our planning committee to please stand. Now there was 48 committee members plus the ISD staff that intensely collaborated. We had 4 meetings, and there were almost over 400 man hours in those meetings. So I was going to say give them a round of applause, but you already had it. So our journey began. Where have we been? The BCISD raising costs that are not fully addressed by the legislator action, and has caused the need for this fiscal budget. Now, we have not, in our district, had any schools to close, but our enrollment has dropped, similarly across the state. Hard to believe, it has been 10 years since we've had a bond, which was in 2016. But we have never ever had a waiver. In 2015, we had a series of loans to occur. For maintenance, for air handlers, renovations, HVAC control, and other things. These loans were lured to calling a bond election because some of the work at that time we needed immediately. So there was a multitude of unbond mandates issued to public schools, such as safety, seatbelts, armed guards, staff pay, mandatory training. If anyone knows me, they know me personally. They know that I like the Golden Girls, and I love the water. So picture this, Sicily, 2016. We were on a boat, and all of a sudden, something happened. We realized that our boat was sinking. We don't know what to do. So the crew put their heads together and they started working immediately. And they got together with the rest of us, the committee and the planning, and we started taking things off the boat that was heavy to try to get the boat from sinking, to make the boat lighter. But we still realized that our boat was sinking. And you know, we don't want to die. BCISD don't want to die. So what we did as believers, we prayed. After praying and pacing up and down that boat for a long time, Mr. Townsend and his team, crewmen, they got together and they went into a meeting. And they came out, and Mr. Townsend looked out into the waters, and he realized out in the water there were objects floating around. And we realized, where do we go from here? So Mr. Townsend and his administration team decided, we have a plan. And you all, as a committee, need to get together and build water this plan. And what we need to do is get this plan together and decide we're not going to stay where we are. We have to do something to save our district, to save ourselves. And all those objects that was floating in the water, we can either jump off the boat and save ourselves, or we can stay where we are and we can die. So he said, what you all have to do as a committee, you have to get with the captains. And you know who the captains are. The captains are the board of trustees. They're you guys. And we have to get with them to ask them to make a decision and demand the people to get off the boat. And demand the people to get off the boat, there can be something to do and something done. So we decided we want to get off the boat and we want to do something about the situation. But it's up to you captains to make the decision because BCISD life is in your hand. So I recommend that you make a solid decision to save BCISD.
All right, so we looked at where we are. Man, I wish I'd have known you had that story. I said I need to share that at the end. But it's important to pay attention to where we've been, looking at the reality of where we are, and then make a good strategic move going forward. So when we look at all of these components, where we've been, where we are now, tax rate is currently $1 per $100 value, the lowest it's been in over 20 years. So we see that there's this deficit, there's this decline, and the state's not coming to our rescue, right? So one thing that we can do, we can look at our city, we can look at it as our community, like our family, right? We can just say, well, it doesn't matter. It always matters when you make it personal. And we've either had kids, or we have kids, or we have a vested interest in our community to make sure not just that we're comfortable, but that our children and their children's children are comfortable. And I want to start by saying, let's not take what we've had in the past for granted, and let's build something better than we've ever had even up to this point. But where we are now, when we look at all of these things, we learned a lot of things about the current status of the school district's tax rates. They've actually dropped dramatically over the years. And there's been some things that have been done on the school's behalf to try to offset this deficit. But the loan balance as of December 2026 was $6.8 million. So we know that there's debt there. We know that there's things that we're needing to take care of. The interest from the loans is being paid out of the maintenance and operations, causing major constraints to the operational budget. So we need to make sure that we can take that and move it to the interest and sinking part of the budget. So one thing, we don't want to just tell you the problem. The thing that the community, and we need to understand, in order to make that happen, approving the bond allows that to happen. Make this as simple as possible, because we realize there's a lot more to it than we realize, and I'm hoping the school board is informed, and we're just coming alongside, making sure we're all on the same page. So knowing where we're at now, we also know that they've done a lot of things to work on doing things on their part, okay? Because we could just say, hey, you're asking a lot of us, but what have you done? The beauty of this equation is they've done a lot. So when we look over the last 3 years, there's been 3 years of salary freezes, there's been 10% total department budget cuts between 2024 and 2025, 20% total department cuts. So when we look at this, and I'm not going to read all of them, you take a picture of it if you want, but there's been continual strategic moves to try to be accountable for where they're at, for what they have control of. Okay, so when we realize this, though, looking at all of these numbers, looking at what they've done, we come to the determination that, guess what, it's still not enough, okay? I don't know if you've ever got to the end of the month and you're like, dear Lord Jesus, how do we do it? Well, we can take out a loan, which is kind of the idea, kind of the strategic plan of what we're looking at. So as we continue to look at this, we realize that what we're doing now is we're continuing to see a decrease, in the funds provided, but we must find immediate and long-term increases in revenue. We must remove debt from the maintenance and operation budget, okay? So the school is really doing all they can by cutting what they can. But they're trying also, what you have to know, the school is doing all that they can do without cutting programs for students and without cutting more positions. It may not matter to you unless that's your job. Okay, so let that sink in when we start thinking about these things. It's not just what we're offering our students, but it's careers, it's families, it's all of those things. So if you live in this community, if you are here, if you're part of this, you need to have a vested personal interest and make it a little bit more personal. And we'll talk about this in just a minute, but some of the decisions of the past, we can learn from the past rather than using the past to prevent us from creating this great future that I think God has and we have in mind for Bay City, okay? So we don't want to just say, hey, where we've been, what we're doing now, but we want to look at recommendations going forward. So when we look at these recommendations, we can sit back and do nothing, and that is an option. It's not recommended, but that is an option, so it's going to be important to encourage people to do something. Like as Donnie said, we do nothing, the boat sinks. Thank you very much. Close the doors, game over. Okay, no do-over. So as a committee, we explored a bond and a voter-approved tax rate, which is a VADR. I'll let you take pictures of these. Also for the sake of time, I think it's going to be important to give some definition to what in the world is a bond and what is a VADR. I had never heard of a VADR until I got part of this committee. But by definition, it's going to help the school get to where it is. So what we learned and what we realized that actually we have 4 basic options. If you want to know one of the most strategic tools that we have at our disposal is this chart. So it gives people 4 options. We can do nothing, and if we do nothing, we'll realize no VADR, no bond, continuing budget deficits,
through 26, 27 beyond, they're going to have to begin to reduce and people programs beginning 2027, 2028. That does not get better. That sinkhole gets bigger, causing more problems, and eventually no more BCISD if we continue down that path. The bond only, take a picture of this. I'm going to continue to save you some time, okay? The bond only, the Vader only, there's momentary positives, but they still run out of gas. It doesn't get the vehicle where it needs to go, to put it in simple layman terms. The secret sauce to what we need is both the Vader and the bond need to be passed. What that does, if we look at that, I do want you to pay attention to that one. The deficit immediately is eradicated. The fund balance immediately goes to 1.5 million, above the required optimum 10% or 10 million level, and it continues to grow over time. When you look at charts, they got a lot of fancy stuff, which they'll get us pending. You guys approve this thing, and we work together on this. So, what we did to get to the census of the group is in the committee we divided into 5 groups, aka tables, and we discussed what our options were and what our recommendations were. So it wasn't a one-person bias. It was really a lot of community leaders, moms, dads, business workers, all throughout all the community. And here's what we did. We had 2 propositions that we talked about, the 3.6 million Vader. And if you look at the statistics of what we did, every table was a strong yes. And so when we look at this chart, there's 2 things, the vote and the average conviction. Like, how confident are we in that this is the right move? So 5 and a 5 of 5.5. It doesn't get any better than this. The whole committee decided that the Proposition A, 3.6 million Vader, is a must-do, strong recommendation for that, okay? So when we look at the, which really gave us the super majority, okay? So the second one, the 6.16 million bond, same thing, 5 across. The average conviction was a 4.8 of 5.0, okay? So even still there, if you're a gambling person, you're making a bet, you're doing it, great odds, and it's favorable across the board. So when we look at all of the time, all of the skill sets, all of the interest and time put into it, it's with a strong conviction that we say, hey, pass the Vader, pass the bond, get it to vote, and let us come alongside and help you educate and communicate to the community, because we know this is not just you guys, it's part of us being well educated. One thing that we're doing, we're not just recommending it, but we're making sure that you are aware that this is going to be a requirement to keep going forward. Okay, I think it's important for people to realize that. We need to pass the bond, we need to pass the Vader. We need to learn from our past mistakes, and we can take this opportunity to learn and move the district forward. So just a few thoughts. Mistakes were made. Has anybody in here ever made a mistake? Absolutely. Did you make that mistake again? I hope not. If you did, at some point you learned your lesson. Us as a district, us as a community, I hope that we're at this place where we have learned our lesson. We're paying attention. We're committing to do better, and we're going to learn from those mistakes to move the organization, move the district forward. And to do that, we have to give Bay City ISD the funds necessary to continue to make Bay City schools great. So one of the things that I was thinking about is if we don't continue to move forward, we know our motto. What is our motto? The black cat fight never dies. If this don't pass, all of a sudden it is black cat fight dies. Like, so if that doesn't get, you gotta pay, this is a big deal. There's a high risk, to not doing anything. So just encourage you to tell everybody you can, if it's legal, if you can, if you gotta say it now rather than later, whatever you need to do, just encourage the people to get out and vote, and we'll educate the best we can. The future of the school, it's up to what you decide as the board. So we feel like we've really done our due diligence, where if I'm a voting member, I'm voting yes and yes, okay? Our heart, I think, as a committee and as a community, is to build something great together. I want to thank you for giving us time to just share this evening. One of my favorite books has a passage. It says, plans fail because of a lack of counsel. But it says, with many advisors, they succeed. So we have to realize that there has been a lot of advising here, and I think as long as there's advising, one thing that my wife and I have learned along the way, it's more important to get it right than to be right. okay? So sometimes your plan is not the best plan, sometimes your strategy is not the best strategy, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we get it right, but we don't walk away with something to prove. To just say, well, I'm just worried about here and now, because the decisions we make today are going to affect the future, not just for us, but for the community, for the leaders, for the district, for the teachers, for everybody. So it's with our strong recommendations that you both pass the Vader and the bond. And thank you for your time, because we want to know that the Black Cat fight never ends. Get out of that boat she was talking about.
Thank y'all so much. I know that was a big time commitment for lots of people in our community, and really truly do appreciate you taking the time to learn from our district top staff and from all of the employees that were there, just to know where we are and what's possible moving forward, but to have the community behind us, and that I think is a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. So thank you to everyone, people that are here and that are not here from the committee, for doing that, and for taking your time.
And we won't let you down if you don't let us down.
That's
We'll work together on it.
That's great. Well, thank y'all so much for being here. We appreciate it, and thank you for the reports. All right, we're going to quickly just go back to good news. Is there any good news that has been seen? I know the school's out, but anything from the end of the school year up until now that has been happening?
Yeah, I spent the day serving chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, and green beans in Roberts Elementary, so that was fun.
Yep.
And teacher appreciation.
Yes, teacher appreciation. Thank you to the Education Foundation for doing that. That's a huge blessing, I know, to our staff, and it's always fun to get to go on campus to serve them and to see them in a different light than the boardroom where we typically see them. I know that there's a lot happening still at all of the schools, lots of summer school, lots of learning still happening, gearing kids up to retake tests and to take tests for the first time, moving into different areas. So thank you all for all the work. The end of the school year is exhausting for everyone, but we truly appreciate just everything that was put into it, and hopefully you get some rest this summer as we continue to move into the next school year before we know it. Anything else anybody wants to share?
Yeah, I spent the day with this planning committee and thoroughly enjoyed it. There's a lot of passion in the room. It reminded me of the last strategic planning thing we did with the students and a lot of teachers, and we came out of that with a lot of direction for the school district. So anytime you get that many stakeholders together from all walks of life, and we have, former graduates and grandpas and community members and business owners, and everybody has a unique individual viewpoint, and everybody is a unique individual. And so to hear that you all came together to make this recommendation when I personally was struggling with Vader only or Vader and bond, I certainly learned a lot. I hear the passion in your voices. At some point, you already know that some people are not allowed to be out in the public saying certain things, and others are. But it's not going to do anything unless the community stands up and screams at the community, this is what we need to do, and I will be right there with you every step of the way if I can. So thank you so much for your work.
All right, anything else? All right, moving into Bay City governments, not government, sorry. We're going to talk about CCR this evening, our preliminary star scores, and then some superintendent constraints. So you're welcome to stay to hear all of the other fun stuff, but I also understand that y'all have things happening too. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, awesome committee.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
It was a great experience. Good. Great experience.
So we're going to cover CCMR first, and Ms. Lopez and Ms. Griffin are going to present that information for us.
All I have is the.
Now, remember at this point in time, our CCMR data is when we have projections of what they have and value.
Mr. Scarby, while we're getting this set up, the high school enjoys chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, and green beans as well. So I don't want you to feel like we only can do that for Willie Roberts.
I could only make one day, and that was the day I was and I
Just want to say, we appreciate that as well.
I enjoyed it so much, I was out there starving and went downtown and bought, you know what I had for lunch that day?
Chicken fried steak.
That's
That's right. Never pass up a good chicken liaison, well, I was gonna
Long title.
super awesome liaison is really what I wanted to say. Want to present our CCMR numbers. TDA often changes the goals, a little bit like the Carnival dart game, right? It's backwards and forwards, and smaller and bigger. But through all of that, we still, and really honestly through the tireless and undeniable work of Lorraine, are able to meet and have the success that we do. So, go ahead, share some of those awesome
So,
numbers.
we had the class of 2025, they graduated last year, but that was our benchmark. That's always a benchmark the year before. They ended at 96%, but they started at 58%. So, we're not going backwards. So they ended at 96%. So when class of 2026 came in, we started at 32%. And yes, we panicked, I panicked, but we ended with 95%. That is our anticipated CCMR for this graduating class. Class of 2027, they are starting, they will start at 42% next year. So actually higher than this current class. Class of 2028, 13%, and class of 2029 will be 8%. So our 8%, that's our freshmen, but they are still doing TSI testing. So TSI testing will be our last day will be tomorrow. We plan to have some in August. Our AP Spanish language, our students do fantastic on it. So we're anticipating more CCMR points from that test when the scores come in July. And our IBC and cosmetology students still have their second part of their test, so we will get those scores in late July. So, and also, we need to say, we do have several students. We have 71 freshmen, 35 sophomores, and 20 juniors that earned their IBC this school year. But it's not showing in the data because they have to be CTE completers, which means they have to finish their level 3 course that gets them the 4 hours of CTE. So those students, they will start showing in our data when they start completing those courses. So those juniors, some of those will show as seniors. So we did have a lot of freshmen that passed their NC-CER. So 71 freshmen, so 71 potential CCMR points, but they won't show probably until end of sophomore or their junior year.
What's in
National
It's like their core, something that they needed if they were gonna go.
part of what they can get for their industry-based certification.
Okay.
It's the
I've never heard of
organizing
that.
body, like the,
Okay.
yeah,
So that would be like our intro to,
welding.
welding.
Oh, okay. So for those that don't know, CCMR is career, college, and military ready. And then your CTE is your career technology education.
Right.
So those are the classes and kind of the strands.
Yes.
So, and the IBC is the industry-based certification that everybody can earn in their courses.
Yes.
Um,
So just for those that don't know those,
Multiple ways to earn a CCMR point.
yes.
So,
And again, things changing, qualifications, programs that are accepted, right? And through all of those challenges, still starting off our incoming seniors, starting off in a better spot than this year's group did, and the ability to just continue to keep growing and meet that percentage rate that we got in the last couple years.
So just a quick question.
Yes.
Between your class of 28 and 27, so that's your last year's juniors that are going to be seniors and your sophomores are going to be juniors.
Correct.
The numbers are lower because they haven't had the opportunity to earn that third
So,
class,
yes.
or take that third class most of the time. Is that correct?
yes,
A lot of that,
that
yes.
was new. So
Okay.
got implemented this year, so we're gonna start seeing it later.
So they have to have 3 classes
That
in
equal,
a strand to equal that.
To be able-
Okay.
So that was new this year for this current graduating class, so we'll start seeing it later, which now requires more manual tracking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. 96%, or no, 95%, 26. It's pretty amazing.
So we're
So,
hoping for
and I
more.
know we always hear from Region 3 when they're here in the room that we have by far the highest in the region, and always are tracking up at the top of that. So, great job. Great job.
We do have a short video of our
Okay.
seniors. Is it already?
It's at the bottom.
This is just highlights of our current, like our graduating class of 2026.
thank you, high school, for all that you do. I know it's just not the two of you over there running all the things, but thanks to all the staff and teachers and other administrators. Good evening, how are you? Welcome to your first official.
So this is Michelle Roberts. She is our new Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Accountability. She has been thrown into the river. She joined us about 2 weeks ago, and she is presenting STAR scores tonight. We are so proud and happy to have her as a member of our team. She is a 1990 Bay City High School graduate. We happen to be in band together. And she also is a distinguished alumni of Bay City ISD. And she was Florida Teacher of the Year, and she was a finalist for National Teacher of the Year. And so the list goes on, but we are so excited. She's just melded into the team really, really fast, and she's out of place.
Thank you guys.
So, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, such a nice introduction. So I'm Cheryl Roberts. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you guys for all being here. So board members, I just want to take a minute to walk you through our preliminary STAR scores. So at the end of May, TEA released our preliminary scores. Those scores can still change, so I just kind of want to keep that up in the front of all of your minds. We have students that will be pushed in, that moved into the school during the school year, and some students that may be pulled out. Maybe they were here at Snapshot and left, so some of those numbers may change. We've got high schoolers, as you just heard, that are in summer school getting remediation for their EOC exams, and so those EOC exams will happen throughout the end of the summer. And in early August, mid-August, TEA will release the final results. And so I'm going to be back in August to talk to you about those final numbers, but right now I want to talk to you about the preliminary numbers, because just because they're preliminary doesn't mean they aren't useful. They're extremely useful. So immediately when we get these, the principals start dividing them, delving deep into them, and looking at the numbers and coming up with a plan. They start sharing them with their team members and working on what can they do to better support their campus. So I want to go through each of the campuses with you. I have some highlights that I want to talk about, and I also have some plans for the future, because just like the principals, the district team sits and we go through them as well, and we come up with some action plans. So the first school that I want to look at is Teeny Homes, and I went on and made you guys a copy. I know it's kind of hard to see in board books, so I just want to take a minute. So looking at this first one with Teeny Homes, one of the areas I definitely want to highlight is our fourth grade math. Tremendous learning going on there at fourth grade math, as well as fifth grade reading. Fifth grade reading numbers are tremendous. There's some great growth. If you notice, fifth grade reading, for example, on the approaches level went from a 53 percentage points to 72, and they did that without losing any of those students that were at meets and masters as well. So that's pretty awesome to see those kinds of numbers. Fourth grade math did amazingly well as well. I do want to take a minute and let you see on that next page, fifth grade science. Right now, we do not have the cut scores. It was a different test over different TEKs. So TEA basically has given us a zone of proximity for all of the students. Potentially they met, potentially they mastered, but right now we don't have the definite cut scores. They're going to come out with those soon, so I will be able to update that chart when we get there. Looking back at Teeny Homes, there is an area that we talked about going into and looking at it in depth of what we can do, what can we plan for the future. And one of the things that we notice is that little bit of regression there in third grade. And so one of the things to remember, as a third grader, these are our babies taking their first ever test. And so they are sitting in front of a computer taking that test. We want to focus on how can we better support Teeny Homes with that third grade reading and math. We've made a few calls. We've reached out to Region 3, and we are going to work with them to see how we can better support the school. Also, one of the things to keep in mind, third grade implemented Bluebonnet reading. And anytime you have an implementation of a high quality instructional material, often the numbers go down. It's called an implementation dip. And that happens for two main reasons. The number one reason is that teachers just aren't familiar with that curriculum. It's a high quality curriculum, they haven't seen it before, they need necessary training, and they need time with the curriculum in order to get better with the platform of how it's delivered, the best practices that go with that curriculum. And the second reason it happens is that often students aren't used to having that rigorous of a curriculum in front of them, those rigorous testing questions and things like that. And so often there's that implementation dip as the teachers and students learn that curriculum and then move forward. So that's our plan looking at teeny homes. So then from teeny homes on that next page down, I believe it's your third page, we look at Bay City Junior High. So looking at Bay City Junior High, there are some areas that I do want to highlight. The overall highlight for Bay City Junior High is that 6th grade math. 6th grade math showed growth in all 4 categories. We also see great continued success with 8th grade algebra. That's our mathematicians, 8th grade, they're a year ahead, and that, remember, is an EOC, a high school EOC that they are taking. And again, we have 100% at the approaches or above level. That's pretty amazing. It's hard enough to do it once, but to maintain that is very, very difficult, and the junior high has been able to do that. And again, notice that 8th grade science, that's those same cut scores, they have not been released, so you're not going to see a finalized number there yet. Overall, looking at Bay City Junior High, we did see a regression in many of the areas, and so in order to tackle that regression, we are working very closely with the principal. We've talked with her. She did spend a lot of time going in and modeling. They had a brand new academic dean that is coming on board and getting started. One of the things, the middle school was at 7 classes per day. Then they went last year to 8 classes per day, and that actually cut some of that instructional time by adding that additional class. So this next year, the plan is to move forward with 7 class periods per day. So it's going to give those instructional minutes back into those classrooms. We have also reached out to Region 3 for how we can give a fully encompassing implementation support because they are going to be doing amplified reading. So we want to better support. Our teachers are going to training right now. We want to support the junior high in all the ways that we can. And we want to do some very in-depth work with our teachers, our PLCs, and our administration team there at the junior high. So that's our plan there. Then moving forward 2 more pages, here's our page for Bay City High School. You heard already some of the successes that they're seeing with the CCMR scores and the numbers. There are definite areas that I absolutely have to spend a couple minutes to focus on. That English 1 score, you're seeing growth in all 4 areas. Same with biology. When you look at the numbers, it's very, very exciting to see. It's great to see, particularly in biology, when you're looking at the meets and masters area, the masters level went from 14 to 25 percentage points. That's amazing to go that high, especially in that highest level. Meets also went up as well, and that's very difficult to do when you're growing those high achieving kids to keep filling up, backfilling it, if you will, and they did that in all 4 areas. U.S. history has some great growth there to highlight, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a plan. But they are working with the students for those EOCs, those remediations and things like that. When you look at those English 2 numbers, often you're seeing students that are having to take some of those remediation classes or take the EOCs for a second time. So we're super, super happy with everything that's going on. Ultimately, what I want you to take away from this is these are our preliminary numbers. Our principals are delving deep into them right now. In August, we're going to come back to you with our finalized numbers. Our principals will be here with their 1-page action plans for each of their campuses. They're going to share those action plans in depth with you. And it's going to give you a little bit more background of where we, kind of a lens looking forward, if you will, of where we plan to go. So those will be our next steps. And ultimately, we're working really closely with Region 3, and we're excited about that partnership to keep working with them and supporting our campuses. So now I'm just going to kind of see if any of you have any questions.
You mentioned a couple things going back to Tenny Homes. I noticed right off the bat 4th grade math.
Absolutely.
They're doing amazing things. What are they doing in 4th grade that can translate to 3rd grade and 5th grade? Is there something that some strategy or something, is that being looked at for, okay, why did this group of teachers and this group of students hit that level. So what do we need to do to help the other two, third grade and fifth grade, kind of
Absolutely.
get on board?
Absolutely, and as a campus, that's exactly the questions that they're asking.
Okay.
They're looking at their PLC model, they're going back and studying, they have such a strong instructional coach there at Teeny Homes, and so she works with those grade level teams. She's able to better support. We're gonna get into the classrooms. I just talked with Ms. Flores today and shared a tracker for when she goes into classrooms, writing down what she's seeing, and then I'm going back in and seeing it again the next time I go. What areas am I looking at? That is absolutely what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
Is what are those high yield strategies is what we call
Right.
them in teaching. What are those instructional strategies that we need to keep in place? Yes.
And then as far as those lower performing, I know there were spots on each campus.
Mhm.
Is that something that we will be filling in with instructional coaches or small group instruction to try to fill in those gaps? So if you're missing, if you have so many students at third grade that do not meet, they're going on to fourth grade, I'm assuming. So how are we backfilling all of those skills? Is that through pullouts? Is that through, what does that look like?
Sure, many of those students right now are in summer school.
Okay.
So they use this in order to get, that's why some of our summer school numbers are higher than they've ever been. So they really are honing in on those individualized students and getting them that support now. They will then start getting that individualized support as they are in fourth grade. The teachers will know their scores and be able to focus with and, work off of those as well. And remember, some of it, when I delved deep into some of them, some of it was staffing kinds of issues where particularly in that third grade, we had 2 long-term subs in the math area. So we know that that's not the same as having a fully certified teacher in the classroom. I think middle school as well and social studies had some moving around of some of the staff members. And so that really does play a part. But those are all great questions.
Okay. Does anyone have any other?
Third grade reading, I mean, that's a huge drop.
It's huge.
So the new high quality instructional materials that are, is this new, like, they had an old model in the second grade and they switched it to something different that they went to the third grade?
Yes, sir.
So remember, part of the long-range plan was to implement high-quality instructional materials. So this was the first year, K through 5, that they implemented Blue Bonnet, which was the high-quality instructional material that was approved by the state. And it's much higher rigor. And so you do normally see a dip, and they warned us of that. I was not necessarily surprised, but I was very happy that we did not see a dip in the other grade levels. But when we have the current second graders that are going into third grade, I've already had a full year of Blue Bonnet, and so it won't be such a big shock to their system to have that rigorous curriculum on top of STAR test, on top of the other things. So, and we're going to couple that with specific support in class for those teachers and those grade levels. And remember also that next year is the second round of implementation, which will be for math. So the high quality instructional material of math will be happening. So there's going to be a lot of intense working with teachers and support throughout the time, inherently just with those 2 things, but we're going to beef up the others too.
Great questions.
Yeah.
So you said you're gonna increase a lot of the support. I kept on hearing like our plan was, well, we're not gonna have that implementation dip next year. Like, that's not a plan, that's just hoping that, like, we've gotta actually have a plan on, this is what we're doing to make sure that we're going up, so.
Right.
And that's, you just add more people to the classroom, and is that region 3 people, is that our people?
Right, so what we're trying to work with them right now is that, and we've done this in the past, where they have individual coaches that will come in and be in class with those teachers on a regular basis, not every day, but,
Right. Are those
on a
leaders
basis.
instructional coaches though, or are those region 3?
Region 3 instructional coaches, in addition to what they're already going to receive with the implementation and our own in-house instructional
Was
coaches.
this third grade reading group, was this one of our like cohorts or whatever of teachers that are all younger, or was there something specific that?
about that.
that teaching group?
My understanding is that the teachers in 4th and 5th grade were more seasoned.
Okay, so they were a little fresher too.
Mr. Townsend, if I may, yes, sir, they had more experience in that 4th and 5th grade, but But now we're actually getting more vertical alignment with the high quality instructions. So you'll see some adjustments, but particularly that one, there were, as I said, 2 long-term subs in that reading all year long.
In the reading for third grade?
I think it's on that.
And math, oh, I'm sorry, math. So even when you're making a transition for that, it still can make it a little more difficult to have continuity for the students along the way.
Are these trends with Bluebonnet where you see a dip the first year you implement it? Is that common? I mean, has that been seen in other districts?
Yes, and in fact, when we went to go adopt it, the commissioner and the, so I think Commissioner Trejo, she said you're likely to see a dip. Most districts do see a dip in the first year, prepare for it. And it's just simply because it's such a more
Oh, it's
rigorous
different.
curriculum. And the
And
teachers have to spend a lot of time internalizing those lessons. So it's really, it says a lot for the 4th and 5th grade that they didn't experience it, but yet, you know, even grew phenomenally. But yeah, no, it's common. When we went to go, before we decided to implement it, we did site visits at different campuses that were implementing it, and all of them had experienced it as well.
One other question that I had, skipping to, thank you for that, skipping to 8th grade, not 8th grade, junior high, looking at some consecutive years, what are we doing in the 6th and 7th grade to ensure we're shoring up social studies for 8th grade? Because it's just a continual kind of, when you look back at scores, continual decrease over time, and so I think there's something that's not being shored up to launch those kids into that 8th grade. 'Cause that's not just on that 8th grade teacher. That's that they're being tested in 8th grade. So what are the strategies and the things being implemented in 6th, 7th, even 5th grade, moving up to make sure that they're understanding?
They had a different social studies teacher every
Yeah,
year,
that-
3 years in a row.
Okay, so there's the answer.
The biggest issue has been consistency in personnel, and
Okay.
personnel issues during the year.
Okay.
For some reason, in
Okay.
the social studies department, each one of those years. Yeah, and of course, you know, that's the first thing. And because of that, because they've been new, they've been, most of them have not had a lot of experience that were in there at that time. A lot of turnover, and, you know, the team has been going in and modeling for them. Rosie did a lot of modeling this year for all the social studies. That was a focus for her. So the personnel and the staffing has been the biggest issue for social studies at the junior high level.
Okay, and then, there's a discrepancy between English 1 and English 2. What's the dip in English 2?
So remember that English 2, they raise the cut points, and so to get a master's or to get meets, the cut points are higher than they are in English 1. So when you go in, it's harder to get meets or master's or approaches.
So when did that change? When did that cut point get cut?
They change almost every year, but it's normally higher than English 1.
And how much of that English, is there a difference? Because I know there's a reading component and a writing component. And are they equal? Is 150 and 150, or is 160 and 140? Does that change in English 1 and English 2, or is it the same? Are they both just, you have a question and?
If you don't mind. It's a little more integrated than,
Okay.
like,
Yes.
I'm gonna read 4 stories, answer questions, and write 1 essay.
Okay.
It's more integrated now, so
Okay.
it's, there are short answer responses to particular stories that are kind of embedded, right? So I might read a passage and answer 10 multiple choice questions, then I'm gonna read a passage and do so, kind of fill in the blank, multiple choice kind of questions, plus a short answer response kind of thing. And then also have a constructive response or 2, depending on maybe the version of the test or something like that. So, but then again, kind of the changing of targets that happens sometimes with TEA, so.
Okay, just trying to figure out, is there something that's not happening in English 1 to set them up for English 2 or is it really just the score changes and for them to get the next level? Or does it remain even the same sometimes?
Expectation
Yeah.
changes.
And 2, the other thing is remember that you see a lot of the retesters in English 2 more so than you do in English 1 those same retesters that are, they're still retesting for English 1, they're now in English 2. And that same, they're still struggling with English 1. So you see that show up in the scores where you wouldn't necessarily see as much of it.
Okay.
Are there any models that can predict the movement in our overall academic achievement, or is this way too preliminary?
Talking about the accountability.
Yeah.
We don't have all the data yet to exercise that model. When we get the science in.
Oh, yeah. Just put the science in the exact same as the last year, can you see what the trend is for the rest of it moving? Yeah, that's curious. Because you see a lot of good.
Yeah,
And you see
absolutely.
a
Yeah.
string of red.
There's a tremendous amount of growth at some of the campuses. So, yeah.
And this on the red is a 1% drop, but it's red. So
Correct,
if
correct.
If you squint your eyes and get real close, you can see it used to say 40, and now it says 41. So. I looked at it on my computer earlier, so I can load it up. Yeah.
Say it again.
Your accountability ratings.
CCMR is part of it, and then you
Well,
will.
that's
and then
essential.
CCMR is a huge part of accountability for the district and the high school, and that's one of the reasons we've been able to maintain the rating that we have. And I will say, I do want to backtrack a little bit. They have changed yet another thing, and it's really a key component that the high school, one of the reasons that our CCMR has been so high is the Ed Ready. And remember that they have to take, if they don't pass the TSI, they have to be deemed college ready, right? Or else when they go to college, they're gonna have to take remedial math or remedial English before they can take the regular. And so before Ed Ready, which is a program that they use to say, okay, if you don't pass TSI, if you successfully complete the Ed Ready program, then we will count you as college ready. And you won't have to take that remedial. But they took Ed Ready away. Remember, it has to be commissioner approved, so that is gone. And so lots of people in the state are scrambling on what you need to do, but they didn't replace it with a model where you can, okay, yeah, you can't have Ed Ready, but this is what you can do now in lieu of that. You have to seek out your own partnerships with higher education institutions and develop that plan to get them to be deemed college ready if they don't pass TSI. So that is you see where they're at, like kind of when they enter, like 43% or whatever. Some of the IBCs will help with that, but our true success has been continuing to test them TSI, but those that didn't pass TSI, we got them through with that ready, and that's where the rest of that percentage came. So the high school's working really hard right now to figure out how they're going to, and they've got some things in place, but so we will again see, just like you're seeing a dip in the score a little bit because the IBC doesn't count until they finish their capstone course. You're going to probably see a dip now because they have taken the biggest percent of what we achieve away from us, from the state. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay. Any other questions about the preliminary stars?
That too.
Yeah.
We did a whole, for city homes, the blue line stuff. We did a whole bunch of work, like a year or two ago, like having our star teachers go in and create lesson plans, and every week is mapped out. You can use all this stuff. We're changing to this blue bonnet. Are all those lessons plans out the window? Like they're all based on TEKS and stuff, which I'm sure the TEKS I think are still the same.
Right.
But how does this go with that?
So when we developed the curriculum maps, we developed it based off of the TEKS resource system, which is the state scope and sequence for instruction of curriculum in the state. Not every district uses it. Some people have a whole staff of people that write, the curriculum themselves. But so it is tied to the scope and sequence that was laid out in that TEKS resource. If it's Bluebonnet or any HQIM, it does not line up with the scope and sequence of what that TEKS resource is. And so they have their own curriculum map that comes with that they follow. And so that, yes, there's a lot. But what I don't want us to feel like it wasn't something that was of value because all of the other subjects still use that. But for math and for reading, when math comes on K through 5, they'll have their own with Bluebonnet. And that'll be this next year. So K through 5. Yes, they don't have to redo it. They just don't use what they had made before because it doesn't follow the sequence of what the new curriculum does.
So basically, it's a curriculum in a box that they're getting when we do the HQMI. So not that all the work, it still is there for them if they need it, but the HQIM is coming in a box and you open it up and it's.
And y'all are comfortable with switching to the
Yeah.
So there's a number of things that have to take place with, you have to have vertical alignment, you have to be able to achieve rigor, all of these things for high quality instruction. And what we did first before we even entertained doing HQIM is we did a literacy framework. It was a grant from TEA, and we had teachers from each grade level in the district in English, RLA, develop this framework on what good literacy instruction should look like for the district. What does that look like? And when they frame that out, and then they start looking at what do we need to be able to carry that out and to achieve it, the HQIM met those needs. And so it was through that process, and then we went to go site visit, and so it was a very long process that, and here's the other thing I'm going to tell you too. Honestly, whether or not the staff had decided that that was the best route, what the state has done is used to they give you an allotment for your instructional materials, right? Now they're shifting that allotment to where they will fully fund it if you do HQIM, but if you don't, you're going to have to locally fund it. So.
All right, any other questions from the board?
I talked to Chris earlier about the blue bond stuff, and he also said some things that I found very positive, is that they might not have scored as high or as good on the STAR testing and stuff, but if you actually go to the classes and hear the kids reading at the lower levels and stuff like that, they're reading, I think you said that like before Christmas, better than they were at the end of the year on the old curriculum. Like
Yeah. I remember when Mrs. Wendell was here presenting her data, and it didn't turn out where they wanted, but she was saying that the things that they're doing in the classroom are at a much more rigorous point, and they're starting to see the kids, and towards that point in the year, I don't remember when that was. I felt like it was sometime in the spring, last couple months, but I think it's just gonna take time, and it is a different way, but what I told them I was a reading specialist, that's what I did with my small groups. The things that they're doing in their whole group classes, in their classrooms, that's happening, the education and the way that that's happening, that's what I was doing with 3 to 5 kids, and so it does work, it just takes time. And so it's training those kids, but I do think that the dip is probably very natural, but I think making sure that we're ensuring that we're shoring it up, and we're not just counting on, oh, it was just a dip, just like you said, but no, we really are shoring up that piece of the educational curriculum to ensure that those gaps or whatever was missing are being filled in next year early, so they can keep moving. Is next year when we're doing the math?
Yes.
So that'll start, well, I guess next year meeting.
They're going to training this summer.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Great, are there any other questions?
Last one.
Yes.
So the junior high is going from back to the 7 periods. Is that 7 periods going to give them a longer planning period also?
It'll give them a little bit longer planning time, but the more important part is going to give them common PLC time. So those teachers will be able to plan together. So we're super excited about that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and they're going back to that also took away their Panthers, that's what it's
Yes.
called.
That's the intervention piece.
Yes, their intervention
Yes,
piece
and then
during
we'll go
the
back to
day,
that.
that's coming back
Absolutely.
online this next
So we're excited about those changes. We think we've got some great plans in place, and so I look forward to coming back in front of you guys in August and let you kind of hear about it from all of the principals.
Great, thank
Thank
you. I
you.
know we bombarded you this evening.
No, it was
but
great.
You did a great job for your first.
Thank
meeting.
you. Tell my boss.
Thank you.
Tell my boss. Thank you.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. All right, moving along to June superintendent constraints.
All right, so if you look at superintendent constraint number 1, it was attendance. The constraint says not to let the attendance rate fall below 93.5, which is what we had achieved last year for the first time since COVID, really pre-COVID numbers. Just a couple of things to point out. All of the areas except for the October, November, December were increased over last year. If we had not experienced that sickness that we did, that was pretty much countywide, and we had maintained what we had the year before, we would have hit the 94.5, which was my goal for the district, even though that wasn't the lesser of the constraint. We did end up with 93.7, and that is the highest since pre-COVID numbers. So we have seen an increase. But man, if we hadn't had that sickness, we really would have gotten that 94.5. But I will tell you that the campuses came up with some really ingenuitive ways of getting kids there in competitions. The kids and the teachers bought in. The Educational Foundation kicked in bikes and all kinds of things to help promote that. So it was a concerted effort, so I'm really proud of them. On the second constraint, superintendent will not allow the total number of student out-of-school suspension days to go above 924, which was what we had last year, 924 days of out-of-school suspension. We decreased by 54.9%, which is a good thing. A lot of times you look at that and say, okay, does that mean that we're just not taking care of business with the kids? But you don't necessarily have to suspend a kid, and send them home. A lot of what we did see before is if we had an EAP hearing or something like that, there would be a blanket 3-day suspension, or maybe there was only 1 day that was needed to complete the investigation and then turn around and have the hearing for the EAP placement. So those cut downs made a huge difference as well. The benefit to them not being out of school all the time, obviously the attendance rate will improve, but the academics will improve because they're going to be there to get, whether they're in ISS or some type of detention, they're going to get the information so that they can complete the work that they need to. And then on the last constraint, physically aggressive behaviors, we see that since this began to be measured, we've seen a steady uptick in the numbers, but I don't want that to be misunderstood for a rise in physical aggression. Each year we improve how we code and how we monitor and are able to record these physically aggressive behaviors. This year we added a separate code that was simply physical aggression. And so they were able to use that. Didn't necessarily mean they got in a full-blown fight, but their behavior was physically aggressive. We need to track that as well. Whether they, tap somebody, or, slap somebody or push somebody or something, it's not full-on mutual combat, but it still needs to be recorded as physical aggression. And so, whereas it would have been coded as a school disruption before and not show up as physical aggression, now they have that specific code and they're using that, and so you see a rise in being able to say, okay, this is truly how many physical aggressive behaviors we've experienced. Any question about any of those?
Is there a specific age group or something where we're seeing like an uptick in, like, is it when the 6th graders that first time they go to the junior high, or is it the freshmen going to the high school, or is it the 8th graders or the seniors? Like, is there a group that maybe needs more attention than the others?
Yeah, what I've seen in the trend in the data over the last couple of years is as they move up in grade level, physical aggression moves up as well. So even in first and second, when they go to second grade, and then when they go into junior high, and then it seems to drop a little bit when they go into high school. Like they've kind of gone through that whole, I'm going to touch you and mess with you and do all that kind of stuff. But so you would think that it would only be junior high, but you do see it in first and second grade too. And we have seen an uptick in physically aggressive behaviors in younger students in the last 3 years. And some people attribute that to those that, with COVID. And it goes hand in hand with the disabilities and the special education and some of the things that we're seeing with our students with higher needs. And it's all around behavior and emotional. So we do see a lot of that. And so that has risen, and it's risen at the lower grade levels. Is that helpful?
Any other questions in that piece? All right, moving on to reports. We're gonna go down to item B, which is the preliminary report on our certified values.
Good evening, guys. How are y'all?
Good, you cut your hair.
I did.
It's very cute. I'm like,
That's nice. It was sassy. I was like, okay. So in front of you, I don't know if you saw it, there is a blue folder. Everything that I've got to talk to you today about in reports, and then in that in the next section are going to be in this folder for you, kind of laid out very nice and neatly. So the very first thing that we're gonna talk about is the estimated appraisal roll, which you will find on the third page of the folder. So this came in from the Matador County Appraisal District. They put these out around this time of year. We will get certified values a little bit later, but these are the estimated appraisal rolls. So I just wanted to share these with you. Again, when these came in, I did notice that there was a mistake, and so I called Catherine McGee over at the appraisal district, and I asked her to double check the rolls and to ensure that everything was correct. So that's why you're gonna see a red strikeout through there with a $2.65 billion on the M&O side, and that was changed to $1.88 billion. That was a decrease of about $766 million. I'm assuming, because I don't know exactly what goes into it, but I'm assuming it's the wrong falling off part of that. That doesn't account for all of it, so there were probably a few other changes that she found through there. But these are our estimated appraisal rolls presented to you tonight. On the second sheet through there, I just kind of gave you a little bit of background on our historical property value. So these values came in from the comptroller's office through there. I pulled it all the way back to 2016. Looking at it, our property values in 2025 were at $2.4 billion, at a change of about 36.25%. In 2025, we'll be looking at about $1.88 billion again on that end, which from last year to this year is looking at about a $588 million drop. That is more consistent with that particular number through there. So this is just for historical purposes for you to see kind of where our property values were.
She get audited, like, that's a huge drop.
Yes.
Like, this, I guess somebody checks her numbers, right?
Yes, somebody checks her numbers. Yes, the state actually comes through and they do a property value study on that, and we hope she passes those. And that's kind of out of our hands, so, but yes, she does it. Check.
All right, any questions on the certified values report? All right, item C, 1205 petition report.
Okay, so this is actually something called a maintenance tax note validation suit that we're going to go ahead and have to potentially enact, depending on the board's decision if you want to go ahead and call for a bond in August potentially. So what this is this will facilitate refunding of certain outstanding maintenance tax notes. We're going to be required to initiate a Chapter 1205 validation suit. It's also called an EDGA, to obtain judicial confirmation that the obligations that we took out are valid and are lawfully issued. This is not necessarily uncommon for districts that need to move M&O debt over to the INS. It is something that does have to happen quite a bit whenever those districts start looking at that, so this is something that we will have to pursue. The validation suit will include most outstanding maintenance tax notes, however, it does not, probably will not include the 2020 and 2022 maintenance tax notes. They're not anticipated to be in that. The timeline for this, somewhere between September 2026 to December 2026. They're gonna file suit, and then within 20 days later, approximately 20 days later, we'll have to go ahead and go into a trial, basically. That trial will likely occur in Travis County. It could occur here in Matador County, but we've been advised against that because Travis County has a longer track record of dealing with these particular suits, and they kind of know what's going on with those, and so they're more apt to judge those. It's a more predictable venue, is what they say. The total anticipated timeline on this is about 50 days, including any required post-judgment waiting periods, and completion should occur before or shortly after the November election if you do choose to call for that to maintain the planned bond financing schedule. As far as district participation goes, we'll be required to assist with document preparation and case support. I will need to be there for the trial date. They're thinking maybe only one day. If the Attorney General goes and actually contests this, then we may potentially need to bring in other district support in, like for example, Mr. Townsend over to kind of help us out with that particular thing, but they're not anticipating that that's going to happen. They're anticipating it's going to be pretty straightforward. And when I say they, Bart Fowler with McCall, Parkhurst, and Horton, who's our bond counsel, and Jay Florence, who's our finance advisor, they're the ones that are kind of giving this information through there. And if the Attorney General remains neutral, the proceeding is expected to be just very cut and dry and very easy. They're really not anticipating any problems with that. And in fact, the Attorney General has actually reached back out to bond counsel to relook at it. So we could even put this at, to where this doesn't have to move forward. They may just go ahead and validate them without the suit. We don't anticipate that happening, though we do anticipate having to go forward with this. Once that happens, it's a permanent validation. So once it's validated from this point forward. That means that if we as a board and as a school district decides to call for that bond, and if that bond so fails in the August or so that November timeframe, we won't have to go through this again if you choose to call for this again. Once they're validated, it is done. The financial impact for this, the suit could potentially run up to $100,000. They're expecting maybe 50 to 60K. That can be rolled into the bond, though. Once it's approved, all the financing part of that can go into that. If the bond doesn't pass, either in the August, and if the board chooses to call for it again, potentially in that May, we could still roll that in. If that doesn't happen, then the suit will have to be funded out of the M&O costs. So, yes?
Why can't we wait until see if the bond passes to validate it?
Because you need to validate it so that way we know that we can refund it. We have a very limited time frame on doing that. If we don't get it passed around that November time frame through there, then we're looking at potentially waiting for that bond financing, because they want to roll on that bond financing very quickly so we can get that debt paid off as quickly as possible, so that way we don't incur all those extra payments that we have to potentially make
So
from
it
there.
doesn't have to be completed by the time of the election, it just has to be started?
It has to be started around that time frame, like that September to November time frame is what we've been advised is the best course of action for us in this one.
It just seems like if there were something going on during the election that might cast a negative, I mean, somebody's gonna misinterpret this. It says lawsuit and validation that the funds were, you know what I mean? Somebody's just gonna see that and immediately think, crap, we're trying to hide money and move and shift things, but that's why I was just wondering. Maybe it's better to do it way earlier, so then it's just a formal process and it's done and they're validated and we move on, maybe.
And we can ask that of bond counsel, and we can see exactly what it is. This is just the time frame that they've told me would be most beneficial to us, but I'm sure that they would act on whatever judgment that we give them or any advice that they give them, and we can see about potentially doing it sooner. I think they're going to definitely advise us probably not to wait till afterwards, sooner rather than later. Yeah. And one of the things I did ask is, that we maybe not do it during that end of July, August timeframe, so that way as we are setting those tax rates and as I'm gonna have to be in that very, very quick turnaround for setting those tax rates, my only concern is that trial happening around that time and then me being pulled away while I need to really be here kind of concentrating on that work. But what will happen from this point on is the board will be asked to authorize legal counsel to proceed with that validation suit. We're gonna approve the engagement of associated legal expenditures with that, and then allow administration and bond counsel to proceed with the validation timeline necessary to support future refunding and bond financing efforts. But I will get on the phone with them tomorrow and see exactly if we could potentially move that up.
Or if that's a good idea.
Yeah,
It just seems like it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we will ask those questions.
All right, any other questions? All right, item D, report on the air handler 1 replacement for bridges and key ingredients. Thank you. I know you'll be back up in 1 second.
I'll do that.
Good evening, how are y'all?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. Wanted to bring you up to speed, wanted to thank you also for approving the decertification proposal at last month's meeting. With that moving forward and getting that completed before the end of the year, we're starting to analyze how do we make that 100% efficient. That leads us to air handler 1 that serves the bridges area in that auditorium building. That unit was not replaced or upgraded during the 2019 bond that did the rest of the air handlers. So I'm working with Hunting to figure out, can we replace that unit? Can we find a unit to fit there to be able to perform the dehumidification? And if not, then we would steer toward refurbishment and basically replace coils, add a heating element, and a reheat element to be able to dehumidify that space. So we're going through all those options, trying to figure out what's the best course of action going forward and seeing what we can do to be as efficient as we can with the dehumidification.
Perfect.
So hopefully by next month, we'll have a proposal for you to either replace or refurbish that area.
All right, does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, on to our items of business. We are going to skip over A and table that. Item B is consider approval of Cherry HVAC AC proposal. Sorry.
So you have a proposal in front of you in board book. This is a necessary step to improve the efficiency and indoor air quality at Cherry. To tackle some deferred maintenance over the years, it's very strongly recommended that we take care of this to help improve the health and the safety of our students and staff at that campus.
Perfect. Are there any questions? Hearing none.
Using Huntington, and then now this is.
So I consulted with Hunting as well. They were actually about $15,000 to $20,000 higher. This was farmed out and asked by a couple different people to look at it and bid on it. This was the best available option price-wise.
And we're pleased with their preferences and all that.
Hunting actually uses COI for very large valves so that they third party out. So Hunting sent me to COI, and then I checked other references as well. They've done very good work for other people.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to be made?
I will make a motion to approve the Cherry HVAC proposal as presented in the board book.
All right, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Sir. Have a great day. We'll see you maybe in a minute. Item C, approval of amendments to the 25-26 budget. Hello again.
Hi, me again. All right, so if you would go to the events page of your book. All right, so what you have in front of you is the amended budget for BCISD. These are the recommendations, or these are what we are recommending as far as the amendments go. Now, as you remember, one of our major findings that we've had for the past couple of years revolve around these amendments. Now, between you and me, if they tell me how to make 100, we're going to make 100 on this thing. So the goal is to shoot way above and beyond what the number that they're asking us for. So that was what I did here. So I don't want you to be alarmed with the amended budget that it's going to be so large, but that's the goal. Let's go ahead and let's go way above and beyond, so that way they can't knock us on anything from there. So these amendments should not be interpreted as actual expenditures. We've actually been very fiscally conservative in our estimations to ensure sufficient budget authority exists to cover any unanticipated expenditures and even monetary moves between functions that the auditors may enforce on it. For example, there are times that an auditor will look at function 51 and say that needs to move into function 81 with the facilities and maintenance. So we need to be able to move between those and have money in those sitting there just in case they make some of those moves. So these amounts also cover any additional accruals that may be outstanding. Accruals have caught us in the past. What I did is I pulled every single contract for the year, what was left remaining, and basically did that with the benefits, planned that all in, plus added a little bit of extra for that as well. So there's no expectation that these funds will be spent. Whatever we are amending the budget to, there's no expectation that these funds will be spent. It's just basically above and beyond what we actually need to do. So the spending authority for these funds will actually lapse on June 30th. So there's a very short time frame on this. Actual expenditures reported in the annual financial report, the AFR that the auditor actually has, will not reflect these numbers. So these numbers will only appear before you right here and right now. You won't actually see these in print any other time. So that's always a concern, is if that happens, that will not happen. And likewise, the budget amendments are used solely for budget management purposes and are not reflected on any of the district financial statements from this point on. So in short, this is a tool so as not to receive any findings for expending a budget category. One that I have actually used several times before, and I've put this strategy before a lot of experts in the field, and every single one of them have endorsed this as well by subject matter experts, including TASO, Region 3 finance experts, everything like that. So my suggestion to you is to go ahead and to approve the amended budget as presented. Again, not to be concerned that I am presenting that we amend the budget to about a $15 million expenditure line item.
All right, are there any questions? Is there a motion to be made?
Make a motion to approve the amendments to the 2025, 2026 budget.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, item D, approval of adoption of the 25-26 amended budget.
So this is just to approve what we just
What we
amended.
just
Make a motion to adopt the 2025, 2026 amended budget as presented in board.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
We have a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, we will now move into a public hearing. Item 1 is public hearing of the proposed 2026-2027 budget and proposed tax rate. So the people here are allowed to ask questions in a public hearing. All right.
We're not setting a rate, we're just.
No, we're not.
Showing
We're
the
showing,
proposed rate, what it
we're
would be
showing what
Yes.
the rate
fall
could be.
Yes.
Yes. So this actually appeared in the paper, so together with Mo Casey, we used Josh Haney, who's the senior vice president of Mo Casey, Becky Cook, the tax assessor collector, Rick Johnson actually helped, I think, with some of these calculations as well through here. This is what is presented and proposed. You'll see a couple of different items through there. Remember the 12 pennies that we have through here on the .61890, we are proposing that. Those 12 pennies are currently going away unless the Vader is called, and then those 12 pennies will be added back in. So right now, Vader hasn't been called, so we are sitting at the .61890 on the maintenance and operation tax note. So there's a couple of other papers through there. If anybody has any questions, we'll answer those. If there are not, if you would move to like that second tab, I actually have these things for you. The second tab. The second tab is kind of a good overall kind of historical tax rate calculation for here that you can look at. This kind of breaks it down for you, plus gives you just a little bit more information to kind of be correct. The second blue tab.
It's the actual page that is tabbed.
We're not on the timeline?
No, it's the page back.
The timeline.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
One back.
One back.
No,
From the timeline.
blood, sweat, and tears went into these little documents, and I'm talking blood too, because I cut myself on the little grass earlier. Bleeding all
Go
over
to the
the
second tab. And then
I have to throw a couple of pages in
There you go.
All right, so with BCISD historical tax rate, I just kind of wanted to throw this out there for you, so you could see it. I took it back to 2022, 2023, where we had the M&O rate of 0.87620 and INS 0.38380 to give us a total of 1.26000. That previous year after that, we dropped 21 cents, then we dropped 3 cents, then 1 cent. So in 2026, 2027, without a potential Vader and bond, we're looking at an M&O rate of 0.61890, an INS tax rate of 0.26179, to give us a total tax rate of 0.88069, which is a 12-cent drop. If we do decide to call for a Vader and a bond, basically our 25-26 stays the same this coming year. We've had multiple conversations with various finance people to verify that, and everybody has to come across and that that is correct and that is true to the best of their ability. So this will actually be adopted in August, and it will require a supermajority. So please make sure you are here at that August time frame meeting so we can get this adopted. Okay.
questions?
Supermajority of the board present, or is it gonna be 5 and 7?
Supermajority of the board, so 5 out of 7.
So if 5 show up, then all 5.
Yes.
Yes, so we will be talking about that as that happens.
Yeah.
Sure that we-
So this is your
Okay.
first official one. I'm sure you're excited, yeah.
All right,
Like schedule.
any other questions?
No South African.
All right, so any questions from anybody?
No?
Okay, now we will move back into our regular meeting and item F, approval of adoption of the proposed 26-27 maintenance.
So we're gonna look at F, G, and H kind of all together. So the maintenance and operating, the interest and sinking, and the food service, if you don't mind. In your board book, there's a very colorful kind of calendar sitting there. That is for your information as we start looking at this budget and potential beta and potential bond timeline. I just kind of wanted to give you an overview of what we're looking at in terms of our dates and everything, so you've got that. If you go to the next page through there, this is going to be our M&O proposed budgets. So with our M&O proposed budget, we are currently sitting at a tax rate, you'll notice, of 0.6189. As a reminder, we cannot add in the extra Vader money just quite yet because you haven't called for a Vader. So we are still sitting with that 0.6189. We're looking at a revenue of about $41.1 million. Previously, the total revenue was about $34 million. This was before HB2's new influx of cash that happened. You adopted the budget before that was totally adopted by the legislature. So that did include some of that new revenue in there. With the expenditures down here below, we're sitting at about $45 million. Now, when you're looking at the proposed budget, there are some increases over the last year that we're looking at. So these expenditures through here, we've added in things like the items that Mr. Bujek had identified during his facilities. Thank you. His facilities reports and his facilities needs. We also added in the things like the additional buses through there. So there were some padding in there, and then as a CFO, I like to additionally add in just a little bit more padding. We like to be conservative just to ensure that we've got everything budgeted for correctly. Now, the facilities reports needs, I just want to highlight that those expenditures are highly likely to be needing to be addressed, some of those next year. So we don't want to leave those out of this particular budget. But we are looking at about $45 million in expenditures. To move on, and I will summarize all of this in just a little bit, so if you have questions, I will answer those. To move on to the food service budget, we're in talks with Mr. Gray. We've decided to keep a lot of this the same from year to year. We did make some increases in function 36 in his line item through there. That increase was for some of the excess net cost cash resource spend down requirements for fund balance restrictions. So he is restricted to a certain fund balance that he cannot be above. Once he reaches that, he has to spend that down. He has done a phenomenal job of managing his finances and making sure that he has a very good fund balance. So with that being said, he has a little bit of extra cash that he's going to need to spend down to purchase some items with. So he has to increase that line item through there for his needs. The next one's the INS. Yeah, the INS through there, pretty much set in stone. Not much is going to change because we have these expenditures are kind of set beforehand in terms of all of the bonds that we've already got out. So if you do decide to call for a bond, I do want to point out that any new bond payments would actually start in the 27-28 school year if it was called for and if it did actually pass. So this will ride with our current bond refinancing schedule that we already, or not refinancing, but financing schedule that we already have. So to summarize the main one, the M&O portion of it. In 2025-2026, we adopted $34 million worth of revenue. Some of the key revenue changes this year are taxes. We're going to see probably an increase of about $2.1 million. That's an increase in certified values. For with the prior year and other taxes, we're going to decrease that by about $1.2 million. That aligns with historical values. I've already had that conversation with you about how I'm not too comfortable sitting with about a $2 million rider on that particular piece of it. Investments, we're increasing by $100,000. Gifts and bequests, that's a new line item that we're adding in there. 313 agreements, those are going to increase $2 million to include the Rome payment that's going to be made in January. Athletic gate receipts, a small increase, but we're probably going to see an increase through there. And state revenue of about $3.6 million. Those are increases due to HB2. As a reminder, the prior year adopted budget was before the HB2 approval. We are potentially anticipating another small increase maybe through there due to some SPED formula changes with intensity of service that they'll be actually working with Ms. Guyton on. Nobody really knows what that's going to look like or how that's going to be funded, but we're going to be tracking that very carefully, and I do anticipate that we could see an additional little line item of revenue just for those SPED intensity of service module that's coming online. The proposed revenue then for this particular year is $41 million. Projected increase in revenue is $6.675 million. With adopted expenditures last year of $42 million, adopted expenditures this year of $45 million, we have a projected change in expenditures of $2.786 million and a projected difference in revenue and expenditures of 3.9, a deficit of about 3.9. So some sizable budget impacts. Facility needs. Those are the priorities presented to the board and the facilities needs report by Mr. Rujek. Potential bus purchase and additional transportation costs such as fuel, repair on the aging fleet. We've got some inflationary increases. Everybody is, all the price of everything is going up. Supplies, equipment, software licenses, etc. We've got increase in costs associated with the state mandated SPED intensity of services module. Ms. Guyton is already going to start seeing some of that kind of come through the line. We've got grant expenditures. Best practice on that is to budget those at full anticipated costs, just in case something falls through with that grant. So for example, with the buses, we budgeted the full amount of 2 buses, but we won't necessarily expend the full amount. And then also, we've got some implementation of elevated curriculum aligned with campus and district academic goals. Ms. Roberts actually discussed that earlier today, and with the help of Region 3 through there. And we've got inclusion of very conservative estimates and contingency amounts within the budget. So I know your main concern is, well, what happens if the failure doesn't pass during it? Then what are you going to do? You turn a page? Did I anticipate your question?
No, I was looking at this page the whole time.
Yeah. So what happens if we had to pull every single thing out and go to bare bones? If we had to go to bare bones, these are the numbers that you're looking at through there. So I do want to highlight right through here our adopted expenditures, where we talked about it going to $45 million. Our adopted expenditures, if we had to pull out, would be about $41 million. Projected change in expenditures, we would actually drop about $1.1 million. Projected difference in revenue and expenditures to the good, $10,000.
Question. Sorry, any questions?
Yes. So that's it.
Don't forget, she put that handy color timeline in here for the first.
Is that our board meeting on Wednesday that month?
What?
Our board meeting's on Wednesday that month, or that's an extra meeting
Extra meeting, that's an extra.
on the 12th?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is an extra meeting
That's the,
on top of what our August meeting is, which I can't even tell you.
yeah, and that's gonna be when we set the tax rate.
Yes.
And if you so choose to call for a later, that's when you would do that.
Our August meeting date is the 17th. Yes, our regular meeting date is the 17th, but we will meet on the Wednesday, the 12th, which is the week prior.
Yeah, and that's a highly calculated out timeline, with when our newspaper notices have to go out and the amount of time that we have to come out with that, and when our certified values come in.
There's no wiggle room.
Yeah, there's
it's,
no,
If we miss it,
We miss it.
We miss it.
Yeah.
we saw that too, we're so sorry. It's gonna be a long day.
It's all right.
There you go.
Any questions on the budget? I know we've had lots of meetings about the budget coming to this point of it being presented in our board meeting to approve. Does anyone have any comments, questions, thoughts before we move into?
Getting it down to where if we have to, we could be possibly $10,000. It's pretty awesome. And I know that's
That team right there,
it's not,
the
it's not
campus
work.
principals have done phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It's one of those things where like silently I was like, hey, but then I know we have a lot.
The lightheadedness from the loss of blood. It's just really bad.
It's just a paper cut, people.
It was,
That's not what I heard. I heard it was gushing.
there's a lot of blood on some of the papers, I promise you, but I pulled it all out, I redid all of it, it's really good. I didn't give you those.
Is there 8 board meetings in July?
No.
That's
No.
That's stuff she's done.
That's the lot,
Those are her 8 meetings, not ours.
just say prayers for me that I'll make the July, okay,
Because I thought the color matched the budget adoption, so I was just like, man, that's a lot of.
Each one of those is a scheduled blood letting.
the scheduled blood letting, yes, sir.
Like, they have to mail stuff on July 1st.
Chris Townsend said blood letting.
Yes,
Yeah,
those are
but I
things.
can't guarantee the other guys will.
Yeah. So those are just some things like in July, CAD notice for the top 20 property owners. That has to be mailed out by the CAD. Board select sufficiency auditor on July 3rd. It's not required, but I just wanted to put that date in there so that way you knew what that date was. July 13th, I need a reserve ad in the paper for tax rate adoption. Some of these things are things for me as reminders. Deadline for certified values, July 25th. Yeah.
And this is normal for every year.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Region 3, that's when I go to Region 3. But everything is on here so that way you're well aware of the process and where we're at in the process and to make sure, because it's so crucial that we need every single timeline on here, we wanted to make sure we had it all lovely and nice and neat and laid out. Which this is not me, this was ChatGPT, by the way, but it was fantastic little calendar.
You're using your tools.
Yeah.
Doing it in August, why don't we propose it in July?
The certified values.
You won't have the information.
Yeah.
Information.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what this one-
So please, 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 please mark your calendars in bright red, whatever color you need to get your attention. August 12th.
Yeah,
It's-
blood.
That is a
The 12th.
super majority.
Sorry.
You missed it.
August
12th.
August 12th, not October.
Yes.
August 12th is a super majority. We have to have 5
Yes.
yeses out of the 7. So if we have 5 people here, then all 5 have to vote yes, or it does not move forward. If we have 6 people here, 5 still have to vote yes. So, what was that?
I said I'm sending it to y'all now.
Yeah, so I will probably be annoying, but it's okay. You'll forgive me later. Thanks, James.
Thanks.
I'm kidding. I forget it because you texted me, like, you always remind me, I appreciate it.
Hey, gotta make sure we have a quorum. We have important things to do every meeting.
Hey,
So,
just real fast, so
Yes, ma'am.
just kind of as an aside, I do want to say, I know when we talked about the amended budget, I do want to say that we are looking at potentially making maybe about $2 to $2.5 million, just FYI, okay? Just kind of throw that out there for you.
yes. All right, so we can now,
Adopt it.
what'd you say? Okay, so now we can go to the approval of the adoption of the proposed 26-27 maintenance and operating budget. Does anyone have any questions? Do you have anything else to present on that? If not, is there a motion to be made?
Make a motion to approve the adoption of the proposed 2026-2027 maintenance and operation budget.
All right, is there a motion, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further questions?
Aye.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Make a
All right.
motion we approve the adoption of the proposed 2026-2027 interest and sinking budget.
All right, there's a motion on the table for the interest and sinking. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, last but not least, the approval, the adoption of the proposed 26-27 food service budget. Is there a motion to be made?
Make a motion we approve the adoption of the proposed 2026-2027 food service budget.
All right, is there a second to the motion? All right, we have a first and a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
all
guys.
your work,
Thank you.
all the blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood this year, yes.
All right, moving on to our consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone wants to pull off of the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to be made?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in board.
All right, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, we will convene into closed session under personal matters if necessary may be taken into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, resignation, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including contract recommendation for campus and district level administrators and teachers. And item 2, superintendent evaluation midpoint goal progress update under Texas Government Code 551.074. We will move into closed session at 8:03. reconvene into open session at 8:51. Discuss and consider approval of hiring contractual personnel. Is there a motion we made?
I'll make a motion that we hire contractual personnel as discussed in closed session.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Next item of business is adjournment. Is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
All right, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further comments? Don't forget August 12th. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 at 8:51. We will adjourn this meeting.
I wasn't gonna make a